Prison can be a scary place designed to keep the most dangerous members of society away from the masses. But morbid curiosity often gets the better of us, and you stop to wonder just how many people and who are populating those prisons. Join us today as we look at 10 of the most dangerous prison inmates. Most of the prisoners on this list are still alive, paying their debt to society. Number 10. Robert Maudsley. One of 12 children, Maudsley rationalizes his violence as vigilante justice after a rough upbringing. He was punched and hit with objects, and he has said that all he remembers of his childhood are the beatings. When he was working as a prostitute as a young man, his simmering rage exploded when a customer boasted about abusing children. He murdered the man and was sentenced to life in prison. Ironically, he became more dangerous once in custody. He and another inmate spent 9 hours torturing and eventually killing a convicted pedophile. He killed 2 more inmates the following year, increasing his kill count to 4. Number 9. Dennis Rader. Dennis Rader is often known for his self-given nickname, BTK. This moniker stands for Bind, Torture, Kill. Over 17 years, he killed 10 people in Kansas and taunted the police and media with letters describing his crimes in detail. He methodically planned each of his crimes and was extremely upset when one victim didn't adhere to his schedule, allowing her to escape death when she didn't return home when expected. After nearly 10 years of silence, he started sending more letters in 2004, which led to his eventual arrest in 2005. He's serving a life sentence now after a guilty plea. Number 8. Jason Barnum, the Eyeball Man. This inmate is one of the most internet famous on our list. Photos of his distinct face tattoos, including one eye tattooed solid black, strikes fear into many with just his look. Barnum pleaded guilty to shooting a police officer in Anchorage, Alaska. That was a first-degree attempted murder charge, but he also pleaded guilty to first-degree burglary and a third-degree felony in possession of a weapon. The crimes were fueled by heroin addiction, and he seemed remorseful in court. He was sentenced to 22 years in prison, including parole. Number 7. Rodney Alcala, the dating game killer. Rodney Alcala was an American serial killer and sex offender sentenced to death row. At the age of 77, he died while still in prison before his sentence could be carried out. He was officially linked to at least 9 murders, with more victims likely. He was said to have toyed with his victims, strangling them to weaken them before death. He also had a collection of more than 1,000 photographs of teenagers, boys and girls, and women in various sexual poses. He gets his nickname of the dating game killer because he appeared on the dating game in 1978 in the thick of his killing spree. Number 6. Damien Fowkes. Like Robert Maudsley, Damien Fowkes is an inmate that has gotten more dangerous with incarceration. In 2002, Fowkes was sentenced to 12 years in prison for armed robbery. 8 years later, he planned an attack on Ian Huntley, a man in prison for killing children. The attempt was unsuccessful but left Huntley with a 7-inch wound in his neck. He strangled another child killer, Colin Hatch, with prison bedding he'd torn into strips the following year. He planned both attacks for weeks and was sentenced to an additional 20 years at the minimum. Number 5. Aileen Wuornos. The first female on our list, Aileen Wuornos, was an American serial killer. Her murder spree is documented in Monster, the 2003 film where Charlize Theron portrayed Aileen, earning her an Academy Award for Best Actress. She was a street prostitute in Florida between 1989 and 1990 and shot and robbed 7 of her male clients. She claimed that all of the murders were committed in self-defense, claiming they had attempted or succeeded in raping her. She was sentenced to death for 6 murders and was executed by lethal injection after 12 years on Florida's death row. Number 4. Joanna Dennehy. Joanna Dennehy is famously connected to the Peterborough ditch murders in England in 2013. She specifically targeted men, saying that she had no desire to kill a woman, particularly one with children. She elaborated, saying that she wanted to kill 9 men, doing her best Bonnie and Clyde impersonation. She found stabbing the men entertaining and fun, acquiring a taste for it after her first murder. The bodies were dumped in ditches outside of Petersburg, hence the name for the series of murders. She even plotted an escape during her trial, detailing the murder or maiming of a corrections officer. As a result, she was placed in solitary confinement for the trial duration. Number 3. The Nithari Killers. Also known as the Noida serial murders, 2 men in India were discovered to be part of a nefarious murder spree. Businessman Maninder Singh Pander and one of his servants, Kohli, were convicted on multiple cases against them. Residents of the village reported that they knew where the remains of 2 missing children were, a water tank on Pander's property. Locals claimed to have alerted authorities of their suspicion before, but complaints fell on deaf ears. Mobs of villagers confronted the police, and the whole situation was quite a stir. Eventually, 17 skeletons were discovered, with authorities able to identify 15 of them. This case is surrounded by suspicions of child pornography, organ trade, and even cannibalism. Suffice it to say, we wouldn't want to meet either of these men in a dark alley. Number 2. John Wayne Gacy. The inspiration for Pennywise, the clown from the iconic book and film It, has to make this list, even if John Wayne Gacy died in 1994. He raped, tortured, and murdered at least 33 young men and boys. He regularly appeared at parties and events where children were present, taking on the personality of Pogo or Patches the Clown, and became known as the Killer Clown due to his double life. He conducted the murders in his home, and one crawlspace had 26 victims stuffed inside. After 14 years on death row, he was executed by lethal injection in 1994. Number 1. Andrei Romanovich Chikatilo, the Red Ripper. Known as the Red Ripper, Andrei Romanovich Chikatilo mutilated, sexually assaulted, and murdered at least 52 women and children. He lived in Russia, and his crime spree lasted from 1978 to 1990, a 12-year-long, sordid career. He used his teaching career to find sexual assault victims, but ended that career after several complaints of child molestation came to light. He was executed by gunshot in 1994. Did this list give you chills? Which inmate is the most intimidating to you? Let us know in the comments below. Who do you think is the most intriguing fraud or embezzlement criminal? Drop it down below. Please remember to like this video if you found it informative and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating top 10 lists. Until next time.